So this is a quick demonstration of the graphical scripting tools that I've created for Vectorworks. So I have another palette of tools I've added to the workspace, and what we'll do is we will add a node to the workspace called arc. So what this does is this will draw an arc, and each of these nodes has properties in the object info palette. So for this one, we're going to adjust the radius to 3 inches, and I will refresh, and it draws an arc. So each of these nodes has output on the right and input on the left. So now we'll add another node called split curve, and we'll make the arc the input into that node. And what split curve does is it creates coordinates and normals along a curve. So now we're going to use the coordinate output from the split curve as the center of some more arcs, and that second arc we will create radius of 0.25 inches. Refresh, and we can adjust the number of divisions on the split curve. We'll make it 9 in this case. Refresh. There you go. Now we will use the output from that second set of arcs as the input for an extrude. Refresh again. There you go. So very simple demonstration, but you can start to see kind of how the system works. So I'm going to open another file. And again, this is a simple example, but I can use it to demonstrate a little more functionality. So this other node, this one's called grab. So what it does is it grabs an existing object in the Vectorworks workspace and sends it downstream in the network. So what I have here is a NURBS curve that I've drawn, and I'm splitting the curve that we input from the grab. I'm going to break that vector apart, the coordinates coming out from the split curve. I'm going to break them apart. I'm going to build another vector just from the X and Y components, and create another arc, copy it along each of those points, and then the Z value from the first vector will become the top height of the extrude. So I'll switch to the front view. You can see the curve that I've drawn, and we'll regenerate. And there you go. So you can start to see how flexible it is to have both existing and parametrically generated objects in the workspace at the same time. So I can adjust that NURBS curve, regen. There you go. And again, this is a very simple example, but just a quick way to kind of show what's going on. So I'll show one more example. This one's a little more complicated. So what I'm doing in this network is I'm creating two vectors, drawing a line between them, splitting the line, breaking that vector into its components, and then I'm using this function node, which what the function node does is it allows you to write a function of X, Y, and Z, 3 functions, one for each of the outputs, which is A, B, and C. So you can use some or all of the inputs as components of the function. So what I'm doing here is I'm generating a sine wave from the original vectors. Then from that I'm creating a NURBS curve, splitting it, and then with a bunch more splitting and manipulation here and some shifting of some coordinate lists, and then some path extrudes, finally going into a symbol node which creates a symbol out of everything. So this is really an interesting concept because this allows you to then use that symbol within the project, or even in other documents if you link it. So you can kind of create smart parametric symbols from within Vectorworks. So now I'll switch to the design layer where we're generating that geometry. And what it turns out to be is a sine wave truss system. So I'm generating one truss, and then I've got 4 symbol copies of it. So now I will go in and make some adjustments. So in that function node, I'll go and I'll change the intensity of the sine wave, make it a little lower, and then I'll adjust one of the vectors that was the input for the length of the truss. Well, it was originally 80 feet. We'll make it 40 feet. And then we will regenerate. This one takes a little bit longer, just partially because of each piece of the truss is actually a separate member, an extruded long path, and it does seem to be a little slower to generate. So, but there you go. So there is a shorter, shallower sine wave truss. And again, these are kind of just crude, sort of simple examples, but mostly just what I've been using for some internal testing and profiling. So that kind of gives you an idea of the tools that I'm developing for Vectorworks. Thank you.